Alright, so I am going to be showing today, or, well, I guess, yeah, whatever. So I am going to be showing in this video, which is going to be right after the previous video, of just the simple guide of mid-airing. The simple guide of mid-airing was not really to show how you can make insane mid-airs, blah, 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 and do X, Y, and Z, which is super crazy, crazy. It's not, that was not meant to help with that. What it was meant to help with is so that you can get into mid-airing, so that you can get into affecting entities without backboards, just affecting entities in all sorts of different ways, areas, locations, all of that, right? So basically, I'm going to be showing how to do the easiest midair because this one is fairly simple. The reason why the reverse midair is the most simple midair, in my opinion, is because you only need to worry about a vertical axis. Using horizontal axis, when you do horizontal things, unless you're sliding on the ground or you're sliding on something, it's really iffy and and it's just really iffy, and you go through a lot of problems and stuff like that, right? So basically, I'm going to show the reverse midair, and how it works is I'm going to get wool and use that to show. So say the yellow wool is sand and the red wool is the hammer, right? So in a sense, right, with the midair, you say you have your sand, or you can call the slab bust like I have previously. You just need your hammer to be within a certain radius or within a certain distance of it. When the hammer blows up, the slab bust or the sand has to be they have to be close enough to each other, right? So it could be in any of those areas. It could be further than that. It could be like up here. Like it could be like here, right? Let's say like we can have it here. I think this might even work, or I think that might be cutting it a little close, but like stuff like that, right? Anyways, you need your hammer anywhere above the sand, but close enough to where it will still affect the entity. So right here, we have the sand and the hammer, and all we have to do is counteract the sand's upward momentum, or in this case, we're going to be showing the slab bus, and then I'll put sand on it after. And the hammer has to have enough TNT to, 1, counteract the upwards momentum, and then 2, stack downward. So you usually in reverse midairs, you're going to be using a little bit extra hammer. But that's only that extra hammer is usually either because of either efficiency based on how close these two are, or because it's the extra TNT that's just counteracting the velocity. In some cases, you will get more efficient hammers than regular 255s if you're full stacking with it, and that's great, right? That's actually really good if you want to get, like, if you can get the most efficient hammer possible. So whatever. So now I'm going to explain the setup here. So we have our 2 powers just like from up there and from previous. We have our 2 redstone take power difference, which is nice because it's really easy, simple to do. And over here, we're going to have our sets of reverse TNT. And the sets of reverse TNT, I'm going to fire this actually. This sets of reverse TNT is what's shooting everything up, which should be self-explanatory. You can see this is where the hammer is exploding. This is where the slab bust explodes, right? So actually, the slab bust explodes a little below this cobblestone block, and you'll see here in a moment. You're going to see it explodes right here, and the previous location. So I'm going to actually select it with can debug, so 1 being the hammer, 2 obviously being the slab bust, right? And like I said, we're going to use a little trick from before to line 2 things up, or not really line 2 things up, but time 2 things to have 2 sets of entities at the same exact tick, usually a hammer and a slab bust, which is the easiest to do, so that you can, relatively see where everything is, and it's easiest to do it, because then you can see between 2 different ticks. So if I didn't fire it yet, so I will fire, so now I can select this hammer and the slab bust, right? So now, first thing I want to do is I want to check the position where the slab bust is, obviously, which is conveniently right here. This is like the 4th time I'm trying to record this, but it's whatever. And if I were to select the hammer, the hammer, holy shit, I'm dying. The hammer is like right here, right? And that means I have to add much more reverse TNT to get up there. And now the setup here, we have 2 sets of reverse TNT. This setup, or this reverse TNT right here, is for the sand and the slab bust, all of it. So I'll say the sand or slab bust, so I'm going to be mixing them up a lot, so bear with me here. So this is basically the sand or slab bust rev, right? This one shoots up the sand and slab bust. This one right here shoots up the hammer. As you can see, it's 2 ticks later than that right there. So I am going to add TNT to it. So based on how much TNT you have, and how much distance you need to cover, you'll kind of get like a feel for how much, like over time, or just from experience, just from canning in general, you'll just get like a feel for like how much more TNT you have to add to get to the point, based on how much you used previously and how far it traveled previously. So I'm gonna do 20. It's a good guess. So obviously I do know the solution for how much you need and all that, right? But I'm just gonna do 20 first to show an example. Now you can see previously the slab bus exploded right around here, right? Between these two areas. Now it's exploding on that block, which means without changing the amount of TNT that this uses, that means something is giving it upwards velocity. In this case, the hammer is giving extra upwards velocity because it's close enough to reach it. So if we fire one more time, we're going to see where the hammer explodes, which is probably just a little below this. Alright, so it's right here compared to right here, right? So that's not much difference, right? Which means we can just simply add a little more TNT to this because it's very, very close. So I'm going to add 2 TNT. Now, I recommend when you do mid-airing and stuff, when you get really, really close, adding 1 TNT could even be that amount that you need. Just from experience, I can say that. You can see 2 TNT is down here. I'm going to add 2 more. Just because I'm going by 2s right now. And it's a little quicker for me to show things. But adding only 1 TNT can be really, like, the solution for certain things. Right? So now you can see right here, there's an explosion up here, right? But you'll see here in a second, there's another explosion. If we look at explosion boxes, it fades out at the same exact time as the hammer does, as the hammer box does, because of the clear time. And you can also see that there's an explosion animation at the same exact time as the hammer. So what that means is what I can do, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly relog to remove my canned debug selections, because I'm using multi-TNT here for a second. And I'm going to quickly just fill this with sand to prove that now it's mid-airing and shooting downward. So now if I add this right here, you're going to see it stack sand. Like that, right? So realistically, that's all you really had to do. You just had to measure what amounts of TNT you needed. Now, the next thing about mid-airing and about reverse mid-airing, it actually is used in a lot of cannons, and a really good example is overstacking. I mentioned how you need to counteract velocity and shoot downwards, but in overstacking, you're literally doing the same thing. When you overstack, you're pretty much just propelling your one-shot sand, your overstack sand, overstack TNT, all of that stuff. You're shooting all of that upwards because of your hammer, how it swings, right? So what's happening is you'll have your sand here, your hammer, and then stuff will go up this way, right? Now you have stuff here. You have 1 TNT, which is usually your stopper TNT, however, whatever you call it. It is stopper TNT. You have that 1 TNT go off and explode, and because of the explosion ticks and everything, it explodes up. It explodes above, right, where everything else is. So you have everything right here. Now the sand has no more upward momentum. Neither does the overstack hammer and all the other things. That no longer has upwards momentum. Now you're left with this here, and because the next tick, right? So you have that TNT, your one stopper TNT, and the same tick you also drop your overstack sand, right? Now that moves after that, and the next tick you have your overstack hammer. Now, because of order of entities, your sand is before your overstack hammer, so you can order of entity stack, which means your sand moves a little below it, and now you have it like in more of a setup like this. So now this would be like your overstack sand, and now this is like your overstack hammer. Now this hammer explodes, causing this to go down. And all it is you're counteracting velocity and then shooting things back down from the higher point. Literally, you're just reverse mid-airing. Now, that's all that really is. So people already do this, so it's such a simple thing, and people don't realize that they're mid-airing, basically. But no, I'm not going to count it as a real mid-air, even though it technically is one. The reason I don't count it as one is because of certain, well, it's only a few blocks, and only mid-airing about a few blocks doesn't really count. Doesn't really show that you know what you're doing. As you can see, I'm backstacking perfectly fine, and this is things you can do with a reverse mid-air. Things like this, right? And that's all you're doing. You're getting sand to stack like this. It's super, super simple. I mean, that's really all there is to it. So soon I'll probably have this up the same day I upload the other Midair video, but there will be more things. I will probably just get in depth, really in depth in the Midair to get to more complex concepts as I go on with this. Next, I'll probably do the 1x1 Midair, but I probably won't even be using a 1x1 because I don't really care enough to. Unless I like get one pretty quickly, I'll probably only try it for a small amount of time. But I'll be showing like how you find your hammer mounts and all that as well, and if you need to find new ratios and stuff, so you can make 1x1 Midairs, so you don't have to do a reverse Midair. So it's a little more difficult than the reverse Midair, but it's literally super simple. Basically, Midairing is just knowing what to do in what situation when it comes to once you have entities being affected in midair. That's all it is. It's just knowing what to do if you need a new ratio or you need other shit, right? That's all it really is. And just being able to control how TNT and stuff move. That's all Midairing really is. So that's that. So if people have any questions, feel free to DM me on Discord. You can even leave a comment. I might answer it. I haven't really answered comments in the past like year or so, nearly as much as I used to. But I don't know, good chance if you actually ask real questions rather than just like meme questions. But just feel free to ask either in Discord or in comments. So yeah, but that's really it. So yeah.